Hello and welcome to Tech Explorer. I hope you're doing well. Today in this video, we will learn about the various data types of Python. But before that, if you are new to my channel, please subscribe so that you can get a complete set of tutorial videos in Python and you can master yourself to the advanced level. So let's start. The various data types in Python that we are going to learn in this video are numbers, list, Python tuples, Python strings, sets in Python, and dictionary. So we start with the number data type in Python. So let's see the different types of numbers that are used in Python. Python supports integers, floating point numbers, long integers, and complex numbers. So as you know, numbers with no decimal points, they are integers. For instance, 5 is an integer. Floating point numbers, they are the real numbers separated by the presence of a decimal point that divides the integer and the fractional part. Like for example, 5.0 is a floating point number. And long integer, also called longs, they are the integers of unlimited size, written like integers and followed by an uppercase or a lowercase l. Complex numbers, they are written in the format of x plus yj, where x is the real part and y is the imaginary part. So now let's see how to assign values to the variables. There is no need to explicitly declare the variables in Python. The declaration happens automatically when you assign a value to a variable. So let's see certain examples of how we are assigning variables the values. So this is an example of assigning an integer value to a variable. This is an example how you assign a floating point value. A long value is assigned to a variable and here a complex number value is assigned. So now let's see how we get the data type of the variables. So you can get the data type of any object by using the type function. So for example, you have assigned a value of 5 to x. When you print the type of x, you use the type function. It gives you the type of that variable. That is, it's an integer value of class int. Then how you set the data type? In Python, data types are set when you are assigning a value to a variable. So when you give x equal to hello world, a string variable, it automatically gets assigned to the variable. There is no need to explicitly state the type of the variable. So now we are going to see the Python list. So Python offers a range of compound data types, often referred to as sequences. List is one of the most frequently used and very versatile data types that is used in Python. So in Python programming, a list is created by placing all the items or the elements inside the square brackets that are separated by commas. So a list can have any number of items and they may differ in their data types also. For example, list can have an integer, it can have a floating point value, it can have a string. So a list can also have another list as an item and this is called nested list. So now let's see the examples of how to create the list in Python. So this is an example how we create an empty list. You specify the list name and do not provide any item within the square bracket. So this will create an empty list in Python. So this is an example of creating a list of integers where you provide a list of integers separated by commas within the square brackets. And this is the example of list with mixed data types. You can provide different types of values within the list as its item. So here one is an integer value, hello is a string, and 3.4 is a floating point number. So this is an example of nested list where you're providing another list as an item of the main list. So now let's see how to access the list items. So every value in a sequence or list has an index number associated with it. So we access each item in the list with its index value, which starts from 0. So this is an example of a list of integers, and when you provide an index number within the square brackets, it is going to return you that particular element. So here in this example, my list 0, 0th index number. So it is going to give you the element in the 0th position. That is the very first element of the list. So you are going to get the output as 1. Now let's see how to slice list in Python. So we can access a range of items also in a list by using the slicing operator, that is the colon operator. So this is an example of a list. So when you give the list name and within the square brackets you provide two numbers with the slicing operator, the left hand side number of the slicing operator is the starting index and the right hand side number is the end index. So here, when you provide 2 and as the starting index and 5 as the end index, you get the numbers that start from the index value 2 to the numbers whose index value is 4, because the last index is not considered. Here is an example when you're providing only the starting index, so it'll give you the elements whose index starts from 5 till the end of the list. And this is example when you are not providing either the starting number or the end index, starting index or the end index, so you are going to get the complete list of the integer values. So now we are going to see negative indexing. So Python allows negative indexing for its sequences. The index of -1, it refers to the last item. Similarly, -2, it will refer to the second last item, and so on. So here is an example of a list, and when you give -1 as the index number, it is going to give you the last element, that is 5. Here is another example of the negative indexing where you're providing -5. So it will give you, when you go on the backward counting, you will see the -5 index number is the very first element of the list. That is, you are going to get the output as 1. Now we will see the Python tuples. So a tuple in Python is similar to a list. The difference between the two is that we cannot change the elements of a tuple once it is assigned, whereas we can change the elements of a list. A tuple is created by placing all the elements inside the parentheses separated by the commas. So the parentheses are optional, however it's a good practice to use them. A tuple can have any number of items and they may be of different data types. For example, you can have an integer value, a float, a string, a list, etc. So this is an example how you create an empty tuple. You specify the tuple name and give a parenthesis which has no item in it. This is an example where you are creating a tuple of integers. You are providing the integer numbers separated by commas within the parentheses. This creates a tuple of integers. So this is an example of tuple with mixed data types. So here there are 3 types of values. One is an integer, another is a string, and another is a floating point number. This is an example of a nested tuple where you are providing a tuple as an item of the main tuple. So now we will see how to access the tuple elements. Similarly as the list, we can access the tuple elements using the index value. Indexing always starts from 0. So when you give the tuple name and within the square brackets you provide the index number, it will give you the particular value at that index position. So here 0 means the 0th position in value at the 0th index, that is the very first element. So it will give you the output as 1. Now how to slice tuples in Python? Same, by using the slicing operator and specifying the starting index and the end index. So this is an example of a tuple. You give the start index as 2 and the end index as 5. So you are going to get the elements whose index numbers start from 2 to the element whose index number is 4, because the last index is not considered. This is an example when you are providing only the starting index. So you are going to get all the elements starting from the index number 5 to the end of the list. And this is an example when you are providing neither the starting index nor the end index. So you are going to get the whole tuple of elements. So similarly, we have negative indexing also in tuple. So when you provide -1, you are going to get the very last element of the tuple, that is 5. And similarly, just like the list, when you're providing -5, you go on backward counting and you will find that -5 is the very first element of the tuple. So you're going to get the output as 1. Now we are going to see the strings in Python. A string is a sequence of characters. A character is simply a symbol. For example, English language has 26 characters. Computers, they do not deal with characters, they deal with binary numbers. Even though you may see characters on your screen, internally it is stored and manipulated as a combination of zeros and ones. So this conversion of characters to a number is called encoding and the reverse is called decoding. ASCII and Unicode are some of the popular encodings that are used. In Python, a string is a sequence of Unicode characters. So Unicode was introduced to include every character in all the languages and bring uniformity in encoding. Now let's see how to create a string in Python. So this is an example of a string. Strings can be created by enclosing the characters inside a single quote or double quotes. Even triple quotes can also be used, but it's mainly used for multi-line commenting and the doc strings. So when you print the string, you get hello as the output. Now how to access the characters in a string? So just like lists and tuples, we can access the characters of a string by using indexing. So this is an example of a string. So when you print this string, you get programs as the output. And when you provide an index value, you're going to get the element at that particular index position. So 0th index returns you the very first character of the string, that is P. And when you provide a negative index, that is -1, this is going to give you the very last element of the string, that is S. Here you are giving both the starting index and the negative index and the end index. Here you can access a range of characters of the string. So you are going to get the characters whose index numbers start from 1 till the character whose index number is 4, because the end index is not considered. It's always end index -1. So here you are giving 5 as the starting index and -2 as the end index. So you are going to get the characters whose index number starts from 5 till the character whose index number is -3. Now let's see the concatenation of 2 or more strings. When you want to add 2 strings together, this is an example of string 1, that is hello, and this is an example of string 2, that is world. So when you want to add these 2 strings together, you use a concatenation operator, that is a plus operator. You get hello world. So this is an example of length of the string. If you want to see how many characters are there in a string, you can simply use the length operator. This will return you the number of characters in a string. Now let's see sets in Python. So a set is an unordered collection of items. Every set element is unique. There are no duplicate items. So sets can be used to perform mathematical set operations like union, intersection, symmetric difference, etc. Now let's see how to create set in Python. So this is an example of creating a set of integers. A set is created by placing all the items inside the curly braces separated by commas, or you can use a built-in set function. It can have any number of elements and they can be of different data types. But a set can't have mutable elements like list or dictionaries, as its elements can't be changed. So when you print this, you get the set of integers. So this is an example when you create a set of mixed data types. You're providing an integer value, a string value, and a tuple. So when you print this, you get the content. Now distinguishing set and dictionary while creating the empty set. So creating an empty set is a bit tricky. So when you initialize A with curly braces with no content in it, so this you have to remember, this is not a set. This becomes a dictionary. When you initialize a set by providing numbers within the curly braces, it is a set. But if you are not providing any item within the curly braces, it becomes a dictionary. So if you want to initialize an empty set, you have to do this by using the built-in set function. So when you do this by a set function, you get the data type as set. A new set, an empty set is created. Now let's see dictionary in Python. So Python dictionary is an unordered collection of items. Each item of a dictionary has a key value pair. Dictionaries are optimized to retrieve the values when the key is known. And creating a dictionary is very simple. Simply place the items inside the curly braces separated by commas. An item has a key and a corresponding value that is expressed as a pair, that is a key value pair. While values can be of any data type and can repeat, you must remember keys must always be immutable type and must be unique. So this is an example of creating an empty dictionary. You're simply providing the square curly braces and no content in it. This creates an empty dictionary. Now this is an example of a dictionary with integer keys. This is an example of a dictionary with mixed keys. You are having a string as a key and an integer as a key. You can also create dictionary by using the dict built-in function. So now how to access the elements from dictionary? Simply provide the dictionary name and give the key. So you're going to get the value of that particular key. So you're going to get John because you have provided the name key. So in this example, you can also use the get function to get a value. You use the get function and provide the key, that is H, you are going to get the output as 23. So this was all about the data types in Python. If you have any query, do let me know through the commenting below. If you have enjoyed this video, do like and subscribe my channel for more videos. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.